I recently had the opportunity to sit down and talk to Dr. Tahira Chase and Dr. Deborah L. Wortham, both superintendents in the state of New York. The theme of this episode is These Are Our Superwomen. So in the name of Superwomen, you see me with my Howard University hat, my Washington, D.C. sweater, giving a special shout out to Kamala Harris, who made history, Stacey Abrams, and the host of Black women who are making things happen every day in our community. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Classroom Hip Hop 101 with yours truly, Dr. Blizzy. Before we get started, please click the notification button and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Teach and reading uniquely. To reverse underperformance, True School is here. Now let's be clear. Our impact will be enormous. To the teachers across this nation, in eager anticipation, a sound from the streets that's so unique, it'll transform education.
True, yeah. Yeah, like true, yeah. Prepare yourself for more than just a hip-hop trend. Here to criticize and analyze through hip-hop lens. Prisons claiming our sons, use our daughters for fun. Pen is stronger than swords, so these books are stronger than guns. Breaking the pipeline, making they light shine. No more believing in all of these white lies. Dr. Shango Blake speaks, better tune to the station. This podcast will outlast all of your tribulations. This principle got principles, that's why y'all hating. Dr. Blizzy's vibrations felt across the nation. Recruiting the youth, only teaching the truth. Cause the future is bright and our kids are the proof. So if you wanna be you, then march to these drums. Welcome to the classroom, Hip Hop 101. Dr. Blake speaks, the lesson is begun. Welcome to the classroom, Hip Hop 101.
Watch this.
Welcome back to the Classroom Hip Hop 101 with your host, Dr. Blizzy. I'm here with super producer Half Pint Cassandra Jackson. Yes, Cassandra. So we are talking about super women. This is the theme of this show. The theme of this show is, it's not that I'm not your superwoman. It is, these are our superwomen. And speaking of superwomen who are changing, Black women in particular is who we're talking about, who are changing the culture, the politics, the education, and business, in all fabrics of society. Black women are showing up and showing out, not in a negative way, but showing out, demonstrating their best selves. And we want to highlight one woman in particular, very significant this year, a person who I think, Cassandra, is an unsung hero.
Absolutely.
And a person who needs to be acknowledged and recognized as our superwoman, and that is none other than our sister from Georgia, Stacey Abrams. Let's check out this clip.
Stacey Abrams is famously known for flipping the red state of Georgia blue in the 2020 presidential and Senate elections. Here's what made her a household name. Abrams was the first Black woman to be nominated for governor by a major party in the United States. Some of you may not know that she's also a romance novelist who goes by the pseudonym Selena Montgomery. But she's most known for her success mobilizing voters. After she became the first African-American minority leader of the Georgia House of Representatives in 2011, she started the New Georgia Project. The mission was to register people of color in the state and helped register 200,000 new voters in 2018. When she ran for governor in 2018, she lost to Republican Brian Kemp by 1%, but refused to initially concede amid concerns over voter suppression. This inspired her to launch another organization, Fair Fight, which battled voter suppression in Georgia. Abrams used both to reach out to disenfranchised voters in the 2020 elections, a strategy that targeted minority voters rather than just suburban white voters, which was a more typical campaign strategy at the time. Because of her work, many first-time voters, young people and people of color, came out to vote in the 2020 elections. Now, Democrats are looking at the success of Georgia as a blueprint to flipping other red states blue in the future. In 2021, she was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for her work in voting rights.
Hey. Wow. I mean,
Very powerful. Very powerful.
I'll let you. I think I'll start with you. This is, as you often say, the year of the woman, Black women in particular.
Absolutely. Year of the sister.
The year of the sister, our sisters.
That's right.
Let's talk about it. I mean, we hear about Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, and I give her all due respect for being courageous enough to run for president and then becoming our first Black woman vice president, as well as a woman of South Asian descent, a person of color, to rise to those ranks. And, we say, to her,
salute,
salute, but we often don't talk about the real grassroots mobilization of what Stacey Abrams did and how it changed the political face of the political reality, not just in Georgia, but the political reality in the actual Senate. So this impacts national politics. And as you said, she's now being lifted up as a candidate for the Nobel Peace Prize. How does that make you feel, first of all? And what do you think about what she did to organize and to empower traditionally disenfranchised voters?
First of all, like you said, I want to say salute to the sister, because what she showed is that when you have resilience, hard work, and dedication, there's no limit to what you can accomplish. She didn't take the defeat as governor as a way to say, well, you know what, this is not my place. I need to stay home. I need to just do something else. What she did was she rose to the occasion. She looked at the data. She said, why aren't we winning? What is going on? What do we need to do? And she took it upon herself to put her boots on the ground, go out to those byways and highways, to the people that were more disenfranchised and forgotten about than any other, which is the people of color, specifically women, Black women, and youngsters. And she said, you know what? I need to hear from them. I need to know why they're not voting. Let's go to their doors and knock and get them registered. And as a result, they showed up and showed out. These are the two groups during these Black Lives Matter movements, as well as the during the pandemic, that are coming out strong, swinging like, yo, this is my year. And that's exactly what she did. She went to the young people and said, listen, we got a job to do. Let's go. You know what I mean? My job is not over. So let me empower you and drop some jewels. And they went out and they did what they need to do. They protested, they voted, they spoke up, they found their mission. And the same thing with women. She went to the Black women and she said, listen, we got to pull it together. We are the mothers of civilization. Let's set things straight. And she went out and she did it. She was behind the scenes. She didn't worry about getting flashy, name and accolades, but it came because of a result of her hard work and her dedication. And it is because of her work like her and the shoulders that she stands on that allows Vice President Kamala to be where she is. Not taking, she's done her job. She's qualified and she's in that position, but it took a lot of people, a lot of sisters, a lot of family members, a lot of elders, a lot of the ancestors to come behind her and rally behind her to give her that strength to get to where she is. And I have to salute all the Superwomen in honor of Women's Month for what they do on a daily basis that gets no recognition. And I want to thank them all for setting and trailing the blaze for us.
Absolutely, man. I agree with you 1,000%. And I'm glad that people are beginning to recognize the work of Stacey Abrams, because what she did was phenomenal. She changed the entire trajectory of this country. One woman, Black woman, sister. That just shows you the power of our sisters. And when you guys get determined about something, how you can just create transformational change. I look at, I think we were talking earlier about her run for governor, right? She ran for governor. She didn't win, but there's a lot of conversation about why she didn't win. There's a lot of conversation about voter suppression. And
she did the homework.
Say it again?
She did the homework to find out what was going on.
Yeah, and she didn't just, like you said, she just didn't sit there. She didn't just sit there, and say, you can't beat the system, right? And there's a lot of that in our community. A lot of times we have this mentality, oh, what can you do? No, there's something you can do. And she's showing us here's what you can do. You can do a couple of things. You can go back home and sit down and throw yourself a pity party. Mm-hmm. You could get angry and say, why get involved? Because nothing's going to change.
Right. Or you could do something.
You could do what she did.
Definitely in the spirit of Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Angela Davis, Assata Shakur, Elaine Brown, all of those sisters that come before.
Elaine Brown, Assata Shakur,
Miss Rosa Parks,
Shirley Chisholm.
Yes, Miss Rosa Parks. Mary Bethune.
Call them out.
All of them, and that's what knowledge does for us. Knowing that we're not alone, and that if we stand in solidarity, there's no limit to what we could accomplish as a gender, a race, as a people, and as a nation.
So I just wanted to you were telling me earlier that they would, like, this whole voter suppression piece, that they would actually have developed legislation, a law that is just inhumane around trying to suppress young people and Black people from voting. Could you share that with the audience?
It's an article in Food and Wine magazine online that talks about how there's a legislation out there that will allow that will make it illegal to give water or snacks to anyone standing online for voting. And we already know that when we go to our communities, the voting machines, there may be out of 10 machines, maybe 3 will work, which when you're online and you want to express your voice, is one of the voter suppression movements that they use as far as a tactic where you're online for hours, so you're missing work, and you know that you have to get to work because you only get paid if you come in for work. And as for if you're waiting online and you're hungry and you're thirsty, or your kids are running around and getting restless. These are tactics that they're using that kind of reminisce back in the days of the grandfather clause, the poll tax, the reading and literacy test that had to be taken, or just as simple as the KKK waiting outside of the polling centers for you to walk home or to get there. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, you said the Proud Boys?
Huh?
To the Proud Boys?
Well, the Proud Boys, KKK, call them what you want. I mean, they're all the same thing. They changed the name, but the actions didn't change.
I'm confused because it's so gray. They seem to all be blurring together these days.
They just evolved. These are the children of the KKK, because nobody wants to use that term anymore, even though we know they're domestic terrorists. So now we come to Proud Boys because that elicits a little bit more pride in the country, taking away from the terroristic acts that they're out there performing. You know what I mean? So that's really the play on words they use when they're describing what they do, as opposed to when we stand in solidarity to change the status quo because of the inhumane and heinous acts that are pressed upon us.
Well, I want to thank you, super producer Cassandra Jackson, aka Half Pint, for being not just a super producer, but a super woman. Thank you for your work that you do. Thank you for the support that you do in the way of all the things that you're involved in, whether it's educating our children, working on national movements, pushing the envelope in terms of hip hop culture, supporting the Classroom Hip Hop 101, getting involved in Black Influencers United. You are always at the front line of our struggle, and we thank you because you are, in fact, one of our very own super women. And I also want to say that as we go to commercial break, I'm so excited today that we will be talking to 2 super women who are superintendents, who are executive leaders of school systems, and that's Dr. Wortham and Dr. Chase. So we will be talking to them after this commercial break. Hi, I'm Dr. Blake, CEO of True SK Consultants. True SK Consultants, the True stands for Teaching, Reading Uniquely to Reverse Underperformance, and the SK stands for School. So we're not old school, we're not new school, but we're true school. We are an innovative company focused on whole school reform. And today I'd like to introduce you to my corporate partners who focus on parent and student engagement.
Hi, I'm Savannah Banana. I'm an entrepreneur. I am 8 years old. I am a fashion designer, and I am in 2nd grade. The company I own is Savannah Banana Clothing. I am partnered up with True SK Consultants to show kids how cool it is to be a business owner.
Hi, I'm Brazil Dow and I'm an entrepreneur. Hi, I'm Princess Dow and I'm an entrepreneur.
We are the Dow twins.
We are 8 years old in the 2nd grade.
We act, we model, we have a store online, we write children's books, and we co-develop a learning app that helps kids with spelling words and sight words.
But what we are most known for is our kid-friendly brand of water called Water to Kids that we created to get kids healthy with hydration.
We partnered with True SK Consultants to teach kids the importance of healthy habits
and how to become entrepreneurs.
Now I'd like to introduce you to the parents of my partners.
Hi, I'm Alina Dow. I'm the mommy of the Dow twins. Myself and my young entrepreneurs have partnered with True SK Consultants and Dr. Blake to share all of the information that we've learned on our journey. We want to help parents and their children learn new methods of teaching kids healthy habits and entrepreneurship.
Hello everyone, my name is Sandra Jordanay and I'm the mother of Chloe D. She is the CEO of Blizzy Speaks, and we're both partners of True SK Consultants. This venture is very important to me because Chloe, when she started reading, she wasn't interested in reading or writing, and I found a way to have her improve her reading and writing skills through blogging. And through the blogging, we've created the company Blizzy Speaks. And I think that the model that I use to help Chloe become a better writer, a better reader, and a better interviewer was through the blogging aspect. And so I'm happy to be with True SK Consultants to help teach parents how to get their children involved in improving whatever skills they need to improve along with entrepreneurship.
Hi, my name is Jessica Smith. I'm the proud mother of Savannah Banana. I have partnered with True SK Consultants to show parents how cool it would be to teach their children how to own and operate their very own business. My intentions are to show parents the step-by-step process on how to begin a business for their child.
Welcome back to the Classroom Hip Hop 101 with Dr. Blizzy. We got DJ Cool KG on the set. DJ Cool KG, let's go.
Word up, this your boy Del G, and you are now rocking to the sounds of DJ Cool KG.
Come, if you got a real love for me,
Kinda gets funky, go ahead.
stay away. If you got games and tricks for me, I want a man that means everything he say, and not a boy full of play, pulling rabbits out your hat every day. Ooh, baby, I'm scared of you. I don't believe in magic. I believe in
on the 1 and 2s. But now let's get to the business at hand. We have two very dynamic superintendents that I had the opportunity to interview. Dr. Tahira Chase Dupree and Dr. Deborah L. Wortham. Both women are phenomenal executive leaders, and I get an opportunity to really lean in and learn about what their experiences have been being Black women on the executive leadership level. Let me just say, welcome to the Classroom Hip Hop 101 with your host, Dr. Blizzy. I am sitting here with two intelligent scholars who are executive leaders in their school district. You know, this year we have, well, I would say 2020 into 2021, we have seen Black women come to the forefront in impacting political change in our communities. If we look at the politics, we can see that, you know, we've had the great work of Stacey Abrams in Georgia, the way that she took voters who felt disenfranchised and marginalized and brought them to the polls. And by doing that, she turned a state, and by turning the state, she turned the Senate. I mean, the power of Black women when they decide that enough is enough and it's time to institute some real change. Then we can look at the meteoric rise of Vice President Kamala Harris breaking another glass ceiling, the first Black woman, the first woman of color, South Asian descent, to move to the ranks of vice president. And let me just say this, not just the first woman of color, not just the first Black woman, the first woman, period, to be the vice president of the United States. And, you know, I have to say this, her rise has brought attention to the Divine Nine in general, a sorority rooted in Black culture and Black history, but also in a particular sorority. They wear the chucks, they wear the pearls, the AKAs. And if you notice the subtle, I don't know if it's coincidental or if it's just by design, but the two guests that I have here today, coincidentally, are representing pearls. So that means they must be from that traditional sorority, the first sorority for women of color in this country, and that's Alpha Kappa Alpha Incorporated. I'm so happy to have you here. I want to just start off with just reading a little bit of information. I was reading your bios, and your work is so extensive. I mean, it just your accomplishments and the things that you do go on and on and on. So I just want to get some flashpoints and just get right into the conversation so that our audience knows who you are. So we have here Dr. Deborah L. Wortham. She is an educator, professor, editor, nationally recognized lecturer on the lecture circuit, a native of Chicago, Illinois. Dr. Wortham is prepared spiritually. If you know, notice what I said, leading with spiritually and educationally. She was the first locally elected superintendent of Roosevelt Union Free School District in 11 years. During her tenure, the district moved from being in state takeover to good standing. That is amazing, Dr. Wortham. I started my career as an administrator in Roosevelt Union School District. I remember when the state first came in to take over Roosevelt. So to move that particular school district to a district in good standing is miraculous. And those of you out there in Roosevelt, Long Island, some of you old soldiers, you know the story. So that was no easy feat. She is also the former superintendent of school district in the city of York in York, Pennsylvania, Stilton High Spire School District in Stilton, Pennsylvania. Dr. Wortham serves as the first African-American female superintendent of East Ramapo Central School District in Spring Valley, New York, where all 12 of the K-8 schools move to good standing. So we have a reformer in our midst. She goes around finding schools and putting them in good standings. I want to welcome you to the Classroom Hip Hop 101.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Blake. It's a pleasure being here. It's a pleasure being here. You make me feel young. Classroom Hip Hop.
Listen, you are young, and it's an honor to have you. Now, this other phenomenal woman, phenomenal, I have to say, my sister, I've known her. We have grown up together in all the way back to, I won't say when, but in the Yonkers, New York. She's going on to lead at the highest level. She's held positions at every stage of the game. And her name is Dr. Tahira Dupree Chase. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Communication Arts from Norfolk State University. I won't hold that against her because I went to Hampton. That's an HBCU rivalry joke. In English education and master's education with a specialization in school administration and supervision from the City University of New York. It's interesting that I never knew that you had a Bachelor's of Science in Communications, because she gets all kinds of communication awards for the work that she does as a superintendent to really show transparency and engage the community in terms of what's happening in her school. I always found that to be very impressive. Dr. Chase earned a doctorate degree in executive leadership at St. John's Fisher College, also my alum, and was my mentor when I was there. Her award-winning dissertation focused on instructional leadership styles that proved successful for struggling adolescent readers. Dr. Chase was selected to participate in the Women in Education Leadership Institute at Harvard University and is currently enrolled in the Diversity and Inclusion Certification Program at Cornell University. Dr. Chase leads Greenburgh Central School District in Hartsdale, New York, as superintendent of schools. Since arriving to Greenburgh Central School District in 2012 as assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction, Dr. Chase has launched several initiatives in an effort to enhance curriculum delivery, supervision of such delivery, and provide opportunities for all students in preparation for the 21st century employment and all college pursuit. I want to thank both of you for joining me today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for that fabulous introduction. And it is an honor to share this stage with someone I look up to, Dr. Wortham. So you put two of us together by chance. It was divine. It was brought us up together divinely. So I really appreciate your.
Yeah, I mean, right before the show, we're talking in the background. Dr. Wortham jumps on, and I see you guys chat. I said, "Oh my God, we have homecoming, family reunion, all at once," and it's beautiful. And I'm sure, just like the AKAs is a sisterhood, I'm sure that there is a sorority when it comes to Black women in executive leadership positions within school systems. And I kind of wanted to frame this conversation. It's less of an interview and more of a conversation around what I started with. So here we are in 2021. We have Kamala Harris. She's the vice president of the United States. We have the work of Stacey Abrams and others. We just see the power. Black women power is just like shining. Long overdue, but it's here. But at the same time, we still have real issues of racial injustice. We still have issues of, equity that have to be addressed. We had Breonna Taylor, and that not, I want to say unfortunate, that tragedy that happened to her. Yet people still had to fight and come up with a hashtag that said "say her name." So there's this disparity in terms of the narrative, and there's this issue that I hear, and that's why I want to explore this with you. Many of my colleagues and my sisters in education talk about who I know, the challenge of being both Black and woman, right? And so I think about and then I thought about when I was working in the school and some of the microaggressions that many of the Black girls experienced in schools. And I didn't always pick up on it, but they would raise it. One of the things they would talk about is the body shaming. Another was the demonizing of their hair. Same behaviors that they would display that somebody else would display from a different ethnic background, they would display, and it would be looked at as aggressive, or you have an attitude, or you can't show emotions, you can't show anger. So these are the kind of things that our Black girls have experienced. So it got me to wondering, as I was preparing for this interview with you, does it stop in the school, or does it happen also at the highest level that you are on?
So if you don't mind, you opened up talking about this sorority of African-American female leaders in education. And I'm going to start by saying, yes. And we formed because we have like interests. We have similar goals. We probably share similar journeys, celebrations, and triumphs. And we just come together. But we do more than just talk about our work. We share recipes. We celebrate each other's families. We have a group chat where we will share, a celebration that's involving our family, and we celebrate and continue to uplift each other. We pray for one another. We send inspirational messages to one another. We uplift one another. We pick up the phone and say, hey, sis Soup, how are you doing today? Or someone will call and say, you know what, here's a challenge that I have in my district. How will you resolve it? And you are absolutely right. We are a group of women who have come together, who celebrate and share each other celebrations, and share and help one another and support one another. And I have to tell you that the 7 years that I've been a superintendent, these ladies have gotten me through. I've shared with them. We've talked. And when you talk and share and you're transparent in your journey, you find that, wait a minute, we have a similar journey. We have similar experiences, just in different locations. And so it's important that we have that, and that we share, a camaraderie in this manner. I think it's what gets us through.
Wow.
Absolutely. And when you look at the state of New York, there are approximately 700 superintendents in the state of New York. And the question begs to ask, how many of those 700 are actually women of color? And we can count on maybe both of our hands how many are actually women of color. Oh, but when we get together via internet, via cyberspace, it is a reunion. There is a code of conduct, of coherence, that we collaborate and we stand together. There is a foundation that's built that says, you've made it this far, and together. See, your credentials will take you to a place, but it is your character that will keep you. And so therefore, we purposefully and willfully polish each other's character, and we continue to uplift. Now, you read my bio, but one thing that you don't know is that I am an ordained elder. I am an ordained minister, and it is my faith. I stay in my lane. It's my faith that calls me to really pray and to minister and to support our women of color. It is a necessity. Wow. It's lonely at the top if you choose to be there alone.
That is correct.
I love that. It's so, I'm glad that you brought up that fact that you can count on your hand, because I actually tried to look it up. I said, well, how many Black women superintendents exist? And I couldn't find the data. I was looking everywhere, and I'm like, why is this such a secret? We should be able to know what the number is. But when you talk about counting on your hand versus 700, I mean, the disparity is glaring. I wanted to know, have you experienced in your role, and I'm really talking about on the superintendent level, on that executive leadership role, racial or gender bias? And if so, where and how does it show up?
Well, I'm happy to share. As a superintendent, and I'm sure Dr. Wortham can experience this too. We go to meetings a lot. Mm-hmm. We collaborate with not only other superintendents, but executive leaderships, with publishing companies, with different partners, community leaders. I know that many times I am in meetings, and not only am I the only person of color, sometimes I'm the only woman in a meeting. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is I've experienced mansplaining, if you know what I mean, where people feel like if a comment is made, that it has to be broken down into smaller parts so that I can understand it. And what's also interesting, Dr. Blake, is when I am in forums where I am the only, and when I open my mouth, and it seems that I can put a subject and a verb together, and then when individuals hear my credentials, it's very interesting to see how I am treated different. It's like, wow, she has a braid in her head. Mm. Wow, she just didn't get a job because she's a token. Mm. And so, yes, I have experienced that. I have experienced individuals, and not necessarily in the district where I serve, but just as a leader, period, where individuals would make comments about being a woman of color in the position that I'm in, and how it could limit my ability to be successful as a superintendent. And so when I hear comments like that, it only makes me work harder, because it's actually exciting to prove them wrong.
Wow. It reminds me of my story my mother told me. My mother, Dr. Bessie Blake, former dean of the College of New Rochelle. Shout out to my mom.
Shout out to you.
She told me that she was in a meeting with all the top provosts and the president and other deans of different departments at the college. And at the time, the president says, he goes around the room and he's doing an introduction to one of the board members and somebody from a foundation. And he says, this is Dr. So-and-so. And then we have Dr. So-and-so. And then we have Dr. So-and-so. And he says, in reference to my mother, and Bessie Blake. Mm-hmm. And like she, what I mean? And it was just like those subtle snubs. Can you identify what I'm saying, Dr. Wortham? Does that, I mean, it may not be that, but do you, in principle, do you sometimes experience the subtle racism and bias as opposed to, maybe something that is a little bit more overt?
It doesn't have to be subtle. Mm. It's just daily. Mm. And the expectation is that you prepare your heart, you prepare your mind, and you know it's there. So therefore, I am so biblically and scripturally based that, Proverbs helps me so much, but you have to walk with your head held high. And that's not pride, that's Leviticus. Mm. So you walk with your head held high, and you keep going, because the heart of the king is in the hand of the Lord, and you constantly have these affirmations that continue to affirm who you are. So make no mistake, you can never tell the day nor the hour nor what the person looks like. You have to be prepared not to be offended by offense.
Mm. So let me ask you this. It seems to me that one of the ways to remedy some of these issues is to bring some equity in terms of the representation of Black women in the superintendency. What can be done to kind of address this this disproportionality that's glaring in terms of women in leadership positions in education, and I'm talking about at the top.
Well, you know what? I will take first walk with that one, and it is we have to be committed to developing women of color. It is, and it has to be intentional, not accidental. It must be intentional. In every district where I served, when I went on to the next district, the board never really had to do a search because there was always someone there. I go in saying, someone will sit in my seat. Now, let's do this together so that there isn't a gap. So it has to be a willful, purposeful, intentional delivery that we who hold these positions must deposit into our young ones. And I want to say our young ones because they're all younger than me, but even older. Even when I left Roosevelt the first time, this is my second visit, and I said to Dr. Hazelton, I told her mother, I said, Dr. Hazelton will be the next superintendent. And her mother cried. She just cried. And that absolutely happened. So in every district, someone on my staff took over. So we have to appoint. And that's the thing that we need to perfect. We need to perfect a living legend, a living legacy, and make it known. I'm in boot camp. I'm in boot camp. And so therefore, we continue to identify individuals to take the next step and to be prepared.
Dr. Chase, did you have something to offer to that?
Well, I totally agree with Dr. Wortham, but just in preparing that person, we also have to focus on sustainability and retention of female superintendents. I will say that, female superintendents, because there are so few, it is important that if districts are committed to being intentional about their hiring and support of African-American female leadership, there also has to be an intentional support for retaining these women, because, making sure that they participate in groups, in professional organizations, and don't give them a hard time when they need to go to conferences. Conferences do not mean that we're laid back on a beach and hanging out with our friends. We're learning, we're networking, we're bringing programs and initiatives back. Women need that. Women need to be supported. There needs to be groups. There are plenty of female-oriented groups that you might want to support to ensure that these women are well supported. Making sure that they have latitude to make appropriate decisions, because obviously we women make fabulous decisions, and so
that's the truth.
Decision makers, right?
That's the truth.
Decision makers, and so in all seriousness, just making sure that you can retain and sustain these individuals is equally as important as attracting them.
But when you say you make fabulous decisions, right? It really is a great lead into the next question I was going to ask, and that is that I think absent in not having women, specifically Black women, I'm going to be very intentional in this comment, in executive positions, you lose a critical lens. You lose a perspective that could maybe round off and bring balance to systems and the cultures of districts. And I don't want to just talk about because the title of this particular program is "These Are Our Superwomen," and I don't want to just speak from a deficit model. What about the value? What about the value of what you bring from your life experience, and how does that shape your critical lens, and how does that inform your leadership practice?
I'll go first on this one. I attended the University of Wisconsin in Madison, Wisconsin for my BS degree. Scholarship, Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship. I stayed in an all-Jewish dorm. There were 2 African-American ladies, and we weren't roommates. So the goal was for us to culture swap, if you will, to learn the culture. I learned to eat lox and bagels on Saturday, and so fast forward, being the superintendent of East Ramapo, I knew the culture. So you bring your experiences. And this is what I say. What makes a superwoman is to know your skill set. And when you serve as a superintendent, you bring your skill set to the right place. And that's what makes you the superwoman. That's one of the components, and that you bring your expertise, you bring your background, you bring your experiences to that location for that period of time.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I was just going to say to Dr. Chase, I've been to your school district, and I've seen how you lead. Very collaborative, interesting. We were talking and we were chatting up about MBK, and I haven't seen many men that champion MBK like you do as a woman. When I went to your school, I saw the young men, that you brought out, and you championed them and their progress. I just think that there's we in the Black community often are more of a matriarch type of community, where we know it's our moms, it's our grandmoms, it's the women in our lives that we take even our social cues from, right? Like I remember going to school and we had a teacher, and she was like 3 feet tall, Black woman. I'm exaggerating, but really short. But we were cutting up. She would give us a cue, that we knew from our culture. It was that look, what are you doing? And you were like, oh, let me stop. I just think that those perspectives, those experiences, that cultural connection is very beneficial to our children.
And you're absolutely right. Let's take our history into consideration. The women in our families were the caregivers. It is an innate ability. It is in our DNA to be natural caregivers. I mean, if you think about our enslaved ancestors who cared for not only their own children, but cared for the plantation owners' children, took care of the entire family, took care of the plantation. We are natural caretakers. And that DNA, that quality, has been passed down from generation to generation to generation. And it's no disrespect to the men in our family at all. We honor our kings, don't get me wrong. But as women, we are strong caretakers, and you're absolutely right. I champion MBK. I love what this program has done for our young men, and what it continues to do is instill a sense of self-esteem, moving them toward the appropriate adulthood that we want them to move into, right? Giving them that opportunity to be successful, and believing in their ability to be successful. And from that, we created MSK. Because we realize our girls need it too. Our girls need the guidance. So my sister's keeper may be unfunded, but we found a way to make it happen because we recognize that we are also building leadership in our females. The girls that are entrusted in our care, Dr. Wortham and myself, are going to be the leaders and the mothers and the caregivers for tomorrow. And so we want to be able to guide them while they're in school. So yes, we both take pride in our MBK programs, our MSK programs. When our children see us walk through the halls, because Dr. Wortham is very similar to myself, we're in those classrooms, we're high-fiving kids, we're engaged with our kids. Our kids see us as the mothers of the district. They go to us as the mothers of the district. And if we see that a child may need to be guided, and I'm sure Dr. Wortham does the same thing, all it takes is a look. All it takes is a look.
Yeah, I know that look.
You don't have to say a word. The look is, and you're right, Dr. Blake, there is a code, right? All it takes is that look. And that is a look that we can give that I have to say, it's a very unique look. Kids know what it means. And I think kids of all cultures know what it means. It's a mother look, and kids respond to it. But yes, we are those decision makers. We are the ones who are championing, and I'm just speaking of women of color, but just women in general. We are natural caregivers. We have this innate ability to lead, to care with empathy and sympathy. We use all of our tentacles when we make our decisions, right? We use all tentacles in doing so, and it helps to inform our decision. And
what do you mean by tentacle? I think I'm about to get an exclusive for the men, because y'all both smiled and y'all both knew what y'all were talking about. I was clueless. So what are the tentacles? I need to understand that.
So there's a spiritual tentacle. There is a maternal tentacle. There is a caregiver's tentacle. There is, what's in the best interest for everyone. There's a fairness and equity. So there's so many different tentacles that we employ when we make decisions. And that's just what we do. We keep everyone in mind. That's just what we do, which is why sometimes too, and I'm sure you're going to speak about this a little bit later, sometimes women are the ones who burn out quicker in positions like this, simply because we do use all tentacles when we make decisions, and that's how we approach our work.
Wow.
Tentacles. We want to make sure when we converse, we want to make sure that our students and our staff members are healthy, safe, supported, engaged, and challenged. And that's not a hierarchy. That's simultaneously. All together, we're thinking about, people talk about SEL, social emotional learning. We've been there the whole time. The whole time. We're constantly thinking about, are you healthy mentally, physically, spiritually? Right. What can we do to challenge you, to get you to the next level? And it's not first do this and first do that. It is all together. And as Dr. Chase said, we burn out fast because not only are we using all of our tentacles, but we expect the people around us to be like-minded and to use their tentacles and to create that systemic stamina, have the strength to constantly, whether you are in a meeting, whether you are teaching your class, those tentacles.
You just said social, emotional well-being, using your tentacles to make sure that our children are safe and in nurturing environments. How has this COVID-19 impacted your work? What are your concerns, and what are the things that you've put in place to address this new reality?
I'll take it. So you talked about social emotional, not only with our students, but also with our staff. Many of my we know that the pandemic has impacted people of color in a disproportionate manner. The students I serve 80% or more student of color. My students are 60% free and reduced. My students were impacted in ways that are very similar to that of our neighboring school districts. I have staff members who are impacted. So I have to, when I make decisions about what's in the best interest of my district, I have to take into consideration those trauma-informed decisions. I have to keep in mind that I have students who witnessed their grandmother literally pass away on FaceTime and could not give her a proper burial, funeral. I have kids whose parents, mom and dad, both lost their jobs. Food insecurity is a real concern. And so with all of that in mind, when we closed our doors on March 17th, and I remember that day like it was yesterday, Dr. Wortham.
Yes.
Closed our doors. We instituted at Greenburgh Central School District Wellness Wednesday. Every Wednesday, we were committed to bringing the entire staff together, and I have a small staff via Zoom, and we did activities such as meditation, yoga, art therapy, music therapy, because I know that my staff needed a moment to decompress because we've asked them to do something that they never imagined to do, which is just uproot everything that they worked on and take it home and now work from home.
Yeah.
And so they needed a moment and they needed to be together as well, but it allowed us a time to not only just come together, but for a few moments, focus on our own social, emotional well-being. You know, they cannot fill someone else's cup if their cup is running dry. Mm-hmm. We did the same thing for students. We put systems in place to provide social emotional support for our students. We developed a Greenberg Cares Committee where we went out into the community and we identified students' families who are in need and we provided for them. We all came together to do that. In this current school year, we use Fridays as our Feel Good Friday, where I bring the staff together and I join them. We're working with psychotherapists. We're working with different types of therapists. We even tap into some of the talents that exist in our school district, where we focus on our social emotional needs. The work that I am also doing, Dr. Blake and Dr. Wortham, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm also doing work on a national level. I actually am a co-author of a textbook through McGraw-Hill. And the textbook that is published for 2020 had a focus on social emotional support. That was my contribution to the textbook. And we ensured that every every unit within this particular social studies textbook had a social emotional component, because social emotional support cannot be taught or done in isolation. It has to be integrated and infused into the daily lesson. And we found a way in which we did this. And we did this through the work of researchers with McGraw-Hill. And right now, I'm on a team that's working with the Chicago Public Schools. You see how Deborah Wortham and I are full circle, right?
That's right. That's right.
I'm working with the Chicago Public Schools as we speak right now in developing a program that has a strong social emotional component that focuses on equity and making sure that there's representation in the social studies textbook for the students. And it's just so important that we focus on those social emotional needs. Now, I will say post-pandemic, this work still has to happen.
Right.
And it's really unfortunate that it took the pandemic to realize that we've got to include social emotional support in our daily lesson. And it has to happen as part of the discourse in the classroom. You know, it's just really unfortunate that it took it, but I'm happy that now there's a focus on social emotional support. And I'm hoping that all school districts will sustain social emotional support, not just for the students, but for the staff and also for the families.
And Dr. Worth, I know you're going to go in on this question, but
you know I am.
Can you add to this? Can you add to your response? What do you? Because you had said burnout, right? Because you're using. Well, so I think Dr. Chase said it, but we talked about using all the tentacles and burning out. So as you're addressing the care and the need of your teachers and your faculty and your leadership team and your students, what are you doing for you in that process?
I'm going to get to what I'm doing for me, because what I was doing for me at the beginning of this pandemic, I was doing something for me. I waited for so long, all year. Our sorority has our annual conference. And on March 6th of 2020, I was in Connecticut, 8:00 at night. It was the beginning of our North Atlantic Regional Conference. I just walked into the hotel, so excited about doing this self-care, if you will, being with our sorority sisters. And I received a call from the commissioner, the Department of Health, saying 3 of your students tested positive for COVID-19. And I said, excuse me, is there a pill for that? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And this was March 6th, okay? And she said, well, it's the coronavirus. And the only thing I knew about corona was, you know what we know about corona. And so I immediately went to my hotel room where I stayed the entire weekend, learning about this coronavirus, the impact, shutting down, and then saying, well, it impacts 3 of the 14 schools. And they said only close 3 and the other schools remain open. So you're talking about social emotional learning, you're talking about the mental capacity, you're talking about keeping people whole, and they're tattered. What is this? So as the superintendent, how do I keep this community whole? How do I keep the students? Well, the students were in this school and the students were in that school. So at that point, we go back to the decisions, Dr. Chase, that we make. Remember back in the day, talking about that mother look, when one person in the family got chicken pox, your mother, my mother, put us all in the tub. And you had the chicken pox, and you had the chicken pox, and you had the chicken pox. And then she lathered all of us with calamine lotion. That was in Chicago, right? So the same thing I said, I cannot only close 3 schools, I have to close all 14 of the public schools. And that's what we did. We were the first district in the state of New York to close due to this pandemic. That's how we keep people healthy. It's what we do.
But it goes back to that. It goes back to that. See, that's that lens I was talking about. You know, our cultural lens and our relying on, like how you use the analogy of your mother and the calamine lotion, and kind of applying that principle in a leadership decision. Like this is like, to me, it's not just about culturally sustaining education or culturally relevant sustaining education. It's also about culturally relevant sustaining leadership decisions. And I think that's what you're talking about.
And you put a sexy title to it, but that's it.
Yeah, well, everything has a sexy title to it now, but we know at the core of it, it really is like, what do we bring to the table in terms of our lens and our perspective, and how it really impacts real change. And if you don't have that lens at the table, then you're absolutely operating from a deficit. And I just wanted to ask you, you are what I would call a person who's a change agent, who you go into schools. You have had demonstrated success in Roosevelt. When we read your bio, you've gone from school district to school district, changing and taking schools that were considered unhealthy and putting them in good standings. I mean, first of all, can I give you a little? I mean, seriously, because we need to put that in the bottle, right? And we need to sell it. I want to know what is in that package. But with all jokes aside, what is the formula? When you go into a school district and you're looking at whatever the issues are, whether it is, the curriculum, if it's the pedagogy is not academically rigorous, or if it's a teaching thing where the teachers are not connecting with the students, whatever the issues are, because we know it's a plethora. Like, how do you unpack that, and how have you been able to do what you've been able to do?
And you sound like everybody else. That's so amazing. Yeah. And my analogy, my first response is always 80% of all schools are the same. It's the 20%. It's the 20% that makes the difference. And I have to say that this is district number 5 for me. And the conversations absolutely are the same. First, you have to listen. I always have people laughing because I don't travel with anyone. I don't travel with an entourage going from school to school, but you stand and you listen. And I can say in my last district, starting at the schools, and you have to live in the schools because the children, That's when you get the pulse of the district. My shero really is Lady Di. She was the people's princess, right? So I say that I am the student superintendent. I am there to serve them. And I take that page from Dr. Chase because her hashtag is loyal to my assignment. She is committed. Everything that she brands, that's her brand. I'm committed to my assignment. And I take that. I'm committed to my assignment and I'm there to serve students. And when you listen, in one of my districts, I said to the students as I arrived, first day, and this is the formula, how can I be the best superintendent you've ever known? And one student said, are you going to be with us? Are we going to see you? Young people want people that they can see, that they can touch, that they can relate. Without a relationship, you can't even change your mind. I'm gonna meditate right there.
Let's let that sit right there.
I will let that sit right there.
Dr. Chase, you're not an in the office superintendent. I mean, I see you take school bus rides and all kinds of things. You know, you're out there, you're active, and I think that you epitomize the term community superintendent, if there's such one. You know, you are out in the community. You're a community builder. How has that served you? Because you have had the same kind of success in Greenburgh in terms of reforming that school district. What does it take in terms of building these relationships to build trust around your vision?
I appreciate you acknowledging that. You're right. First day of school, I'm on that school bus with those kids. I want to greet my kindergartners. It's their first experience in school, and it's exciting for me to do that. Every child in my community knows who Dr. Chase is. I'm in those classrooms. The kids know me. Hi, Dr. Chase! And it's just, they all know me. I love it. The community knows me because I use different modalities in which to reach them. They see me in their living room. I come on their television. I have a television show. I have a television studio. I use it. I send out video messages to my community. So they all know me. They all see me. I'm out there. I'm in the community. That's just what I do. Dr. Wortham talked about my hashtag obedient to my assignment. I believe that I was divinely placed there. That's why I use that hashtag. And no matter what the challenges are, you stay committed to what it is that you're supposed to do. I am a servant leader. I serve the community. And whether I make decisions that are popular or not unpopular, if maybe if people may not agree, at the end of the day, I am their superintendent. All of my messages begin with, this is your superintendent, Dr. Tahira Dupree Chase. And everyone knows that's my mantra. This is your superintendent. And the kids will say, that's our superintendent. That's my superintendent, not that's the superintendent. Just as a child would say, that's my mommy. And that's how my kids regard me, my superintendent. My parents and my community are the same way. I have a very healthy, strong relationship with my PTA, with my families in my community. And that means the world to me, because I always say to the families, you trust me with your child. And that trust is invaluable. I will not let you down.
So,
students don't care if you know the Pythagorean theorem or not.
No, they don't, ma'am.
They really don't.
Nope.
They care that you care.
That's right. And they know, Dr. Wortham, when you care.
Exactly.
They know that they can detect hypocrisy and they can detect genuine care.
Right.
The teachers and staff, can they detect that as well?
Yes, they can. I can tell you, talking about relationships with staff and with students and with community, on one district, I took 30,000 selfies with students.
Wow.
30,000. not just one, but 30,000. And so the students came to look for getting close. Can we take a selfie? Of course. It talks about relationship, and it talks about getting the kids into the boardroom. I loved for the students to come into the boardroom and allow them to see what the pleather seats look like. You know, did I say pleather? I should say leather.
I wanted to laugh, but I'm trying to be professional.
That just means you are real as they come. I love it. You know, but it's interesting because you're modeling for adults.
Yeah.
You know, how they should engage and be relationship oriented when it comes to students. Dr. Chase talked about they want to know how much you care, right? And I was looking at this article in this on this website called dismantlingracism.org, and it talks about the 5 components. And one of the things it talks about in terms of like implicit bias and systemic racism is these 5 principles, right? Power hoarding, valuing quantity over quality, defensiveness, a sense of urgency, and perfection. And this really gets into something that is becoming these 5 components. They usually show themselves in the dynamic of teacher unions, Black children, and educational reformers, right? The educational reformers coming in and is trying to be the transformational leader, right? Create change. The unions rise up and protect people that are about those 5 components. And this real power dynamic comes up. And then when you add race and gender to it, it can become toxic. So I always say that, most educational leaders, whether they're school building leaders or district leaders, when we lead or when we given the opportunity for leadership positions, they usually give us districts that have these 5 components. They usually give us districts where, whether you like it or not, when you walk into the door, you're walking into the door as a change agent because of all the things that need to be changed. How do you navigate those power dynamics? How and the resistance of change? Because I've seen where it can become very slippery, where it goes from not just lack of understanding, but when the person is effective in bringing about change, they begin to attack the leader's character. How do you navigate that and still find a way to push forward your agenda?
You know, I say all the time that the superintendent is really related to real estate agent, because it is up to us to market our district. And that's revenue, that's income, that's capital. And when the search firm interviews you and they tell you what the district needs, it's just like real estate. The realtor is going to tell you what this house is worth. They're going to tell you about the neighborhood, but then you have to have someone to come in to audit that property, someone to come in to assess that property. And it's the same thing with superintendents and school reform and change. You have to assess the property. You have to assess the data. You have to assess the culture. And the piece that will take you under is the sense of urgency, that lackadaisical attitude. You know, we've been this way for many years, and here you come.
Who are you?
Yes, right.
You're gonna make change? The 3 people that came before you, they said the same thing you're saying right now.
Exactly. And so I can only give you just classic examples that something that you said, they give you the districts that need change. No. We take and we seek and we cultivate the districts. I know that I am an educational evangelist. Know it. Know it. Make no mistake, my brother. The same thing that it takes to usher in and to move districts forward is the same effort and energy that it takes to maintain a high performing district. We're not high performing yet. And so we go into these districts and we determine and we listen to the pulse. That culture will speak loudly. I'm going to give you this example, and then I'm going to turn this mic over to my Dr. Chase, who's obedient to her assignment. And I remember, the expectation was that the superintendent did not dabble in curriculum and instruction, but that was the cancer. That was the ilk of the district. There was nothing that was systemic about the instructional model. We did not have explicit instruction. And so I'm moving forward with teaching about learning targets and, differentiating instruction. And all of a sudden I see the union wearing these red buttons. And I said, well, what's that? Why is everybody wearing red buttons to say, there's solidarity? Oh, so you really don't want to do learning targets. Oh, you really don't want to put these systemic initiatives in place that can't stop your stride. You know that this is what needs to happen, and you continue to bring the people to the table. At the end of the day, which was several months later, when the benchmark assessments came forth and the students demonstrated growth, the people said, we are with you, and the red buttons went away.
Wow.
Stay the course, and rally the people with you. Rally them with you. When they see the evidence and the fruit of their labor, you will start collecting more capital.
Dr. Chase?
Well said. Dr. Wortham is exactly right. It's about building trust. During my tenure as a superintendent, I've definitely faced challenges with getting buy-in. I know in my heart of hearts, this is the right thing for our district. But I was faced with, but this is what we've always done. And my response was, well, if you're going to continue to do what you've always done, you're going to end up with the same results. So if you are committed to improving our results, let's roll up our sleeves together. Very similar to Dr. Wortham, I am a in the trench person. I bring people to the table. I bring all people to the table. And what I mean by that is representation of all the constituents to the table before major decisions are made. And do I get pushback? Of course I do. But the challenge of that pushback makes me work harder to get people to understand the importance of what we're doing at the end of the day. And this is how I was able to get the IB program for our high school, the Mandarin Chinese, the things that people were pushing back on, the OUT program, the full-time ECP pre-K program, was able to get those things regardless of pushback, but just bringing folk to the table. And as Dr. Wortham stated, standing firm in my conviction. You see, if people can feel that they can push back on you and you bend, you'll never get an opportunity to share a vision again. But when you share that vision, and even though people are throwing stones at you, throwing rocks, telling you it's an elitist idea, it'll never happen, not those kids can't do it, and blah, blah, blah. But when your expectation remains high and you keep fighting the good fight, you'll slowly see a couple more people are standing shoulder to shoulder, and then a few more, and then a few more, and then a few more. And then what happens is the naysayers are standing by themselves. They have no other choice but to join in because they don't want to stand by themselves. And then you get your buy-in. It's not easy, but we have the shoulders for it. And this is the work that we do because we believe in the children that we serve. We believe in them. We have a high expectation. And what I've learned in my 27 years as an educator, children will rise and fall to expectations.
Yes.
If your expectations are here, they will stop here. But if those expectations are through the roof, and as my soror, my link sister, and my sister Soup, Dr. Wortham says, all the way up, when those expectations are all the way up, watch these beautiful children soar. But people have to believe that you as a leader believe that as well. And when they know that you believe that, after they've tested you a couple of times and you may have lost a tooth, got a black eye in the game doing it, they will follow you.
I think you said something.
Follow you.
I think you said something profound.
Uh-oh.
That they will test you.
Oh yeah.
And staying consistent with the test. You know, within the test, then begins to breed trust and support. But I don't think any, you know, it's so funny. I never forget. I was dealing with some resistance from a bunch of teachers at a school that I was a principal of. And I went home and I was complaining to my father. I said, you know, I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that. They're pushing up on me, they're doing this. I'm just sick of it. You know how you have that moment where you go home and you just say, later for all these people, y'all can all go to hell. Yeah, you have that moment. And I said, and my father said, he said, the wind blows highest at the top of the mountain. He said, if you don't want to deal with the wind, stay in the valley.
Nice.
And I dusted myself off and went back on in and understood that that is what comes with it. And I think that, first of all, I want to thank you both. You know, we're wrapping up. I want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for your pearls of wisdom. And I really mean that. I've learned a lot listening to you, listening to how you lead, listening to what your experiences have been. I think that this is very valuable. Now I'm going to tell you something. One of the things that you may not know about me is I'm the president, and I got of a organization that just launched yesterday during Black History Month. It is a powerful organization. Nothing but leaders amongst leaders. We have everybody in the village, from the elders to the young. We have a 7-point actionable item agenda for Black children in the state of New York. We're working with all the electeds throughout the state. We have 4 committees: advocacy, policy, capacity, culture, and community. Our vision is to serve Black educators, to influence others, and to impact Black children. So if you see this sign here, BU, Black Edfluencers United, and it simply means BU for short. Be your authentic Black self. And we have created an authentic Black space for our Black educators. I will be showing this to our membership because in our group, we have some dynamic, young, middle-aged, I won't say old because I get beat up. Seasoned Black educators, male and female, who can all benefit from what you told us today. And I'm going to send an invitation. Cassandra Jackson, shout out to Cassandra Jackson, yes. Super producer, AKA Half Pint, for putting this together. I'm going to invite you to come speak to our membership because we're doing a lot of capacity building. And I think that they would be served by you and you would be served by them. When you talk about being intentional about creating pathways towards leadership and coaching and membership, you got the wisdom, I got the group. And I want to put you in front of my group so that they can connect with you around some of the ideas and the experiences that you have. So I just want to thank you. You are truly super women who happen to be superintendents. I thank you for being on the Classroom Hip Hop 101. I really appreciate you, and I am really empowered by what you had to say today.
Thank you so much.
What a great interview with Dr. Tahira Chase and Dr. Deborah L. Wortham. If you like what you saw today, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Classroom Hip Hop 101 with Dr. Blizzy, and don't forget to hit the notification button. Thank you. See you next time.
Here to criticize and analyze through hip hop lens.